they had a PKM, a Soviet belt-fed machine gun. For those that don't know, dialed in on my location, and they were just unloading. And I was catching fragments from ricochets, rock fragments, everything else. And I thought, this is it. This is it. Like, I'm done. And I had a vision. I have a boy who's now 16. He was about 2 years old at that time. And I had a vision of two guys in their dress blues coming to my house to give him a folded flag and tell him that his father was killed behind a rock in Afghanistan. And that's when the mindset changed. It's amazing the stuff that goes through your head when you think this is it. The funny thing is, Mark, I had never been at more peace in my life than I was after I had accepted death, said, okay, this is going to happen. I had to make peace with this right now. And working my way down that mountain after I made peace, the most calmest I think I've ever been in my life.
This episode of the Warriors Way podcast is brought to you by CCW Solutions Group. If you're thinking about getting your concealed carry but don't know where to start, we guide you through the process step by step. Head over to ccwsolutionsgroup.com to get started. Hey, welcome back to the Warriors Way, a podcast about your rights, your freedoms, and the mindset to protect both. So today's guest is someone that I've been looking forward to speaking to. But before we get started, I want to give a special thank you and shout out to our friend and previous guest, Stephen Williford, for making this connection and making the introduction. So Stephen, we really, truly appreciate you connecting us. When Stephen described Teddy to me, he said, Mark, Teddy is the original G.I. Joe action figure. He's a towering force that every 5-year-old envisioned when they were playing war. And if anybody knows Stephen Williford, he's probably a few years older than Teddy. And he said, I imagined being Teddy when I was playing G.I. Joe. So after learning a little more about Teddy's story, I can understand exactly what Stephen meant. And I'm just going to run through it. Teddy Daniels, he served in law enforcement for many years, answered the call to serve his country, our country, in Afghanistan. He survived by being shot multiple times in combat, earned the Purple Heart, and he has continued to serve long after taking off the uniform. But today's conversation isn't really about politics. It's about the warrior's mindset, and we're going to get into that. It's about what happens when everything goes wrong, when the pressure is overwhelming, and when quitting would be the easiest option, but not an option. So how do warriors move forward? How do they lead under fire? How do they come home, rebuild, and continue to serve others? Those are the questions that we're going to explore today. And Teddy, thank you for being on the Warriors Way. It is truly an honor having you with us.
Mark, thank you. The honor's truly mine, brother. Talking about Steven. Steven's a great guy. We were honored together. I believe it was 2018, 2019 at the NRA convention in Dallas, Texas. That's where I met him. I knew of Steven's story. The guy's literally a true American hero, and we've remained friends ever since then. And just an incredible guy, and I'm so glad that he put us in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a great guy. One of those people that a very small fraction of the population, first of all, experience what Stephen experienced, and even fewer amount would step in like he did. That's at that shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas. So we're grateful again, Stephen, for making the connection. But Ted, we're going to transition to you. I know one of the things we had talked about previously is your mindset, even as a child, was built for adversity, was built for overcoming conflict. So tell us about your childhood again. Tell us what shaped you and who taught you that strength and responsibility.
I think it was definitely my parents. My dad, blue collar, brick and stone mason. My mother, she worked in a textile mill. While all my friends were working the cushy jobs in the summer in the air-conditioned supermarket stocking shelves, my dad had me out on job sites. And I resented him at the time for it. But as I look back now, I'm thankful that he raised me the way that he did. He was a very stoic man, would not accept excuses. It was a get things done mentality. And, Mark, when I was a kid, I wrestled and, I brought home, my dad was working and I had a tournament and I brought home a third place trophy from my first year wrestling. I might have been 11, 12 years old. And I was so excited for my dad to come home from work. I put it on the kitchen table and I couldn't wait. My dad came home. I ran in the house, grabbed it, showed it to him. I said, Dad, I took third in my first tournament. My dad broke the trophy in half and threw it in the trash. He goes, we don't do third place around here. So, that was kind of the mindset and kind of my childhood growing up. So that might have a little bit to do with, well, I'm sure it has a lot to do with what kind of shaped me as an adult now.
Yeah, you were part of that tough love kind of upbringing. We don't really see that anymore with the vast majority of kids. They're not to demean parents, but there's a lot of parents out there that are raising soft kids.
Well, Mark, let's just come out and say it. I mean, America's youth right now, I think they're being coddled. Absolutely. And you can't raise kids today the way I was raised. Let's just put it that way. You can't do it. So I do understand giving a little bit of grace. My youngest just turned 9 years old. And I love him to death, but he's got to learn the lessons in life as well. And he's not coddled. He doesn't get everything he wants. And, he's the kid, when you're done eating your dinner, plate goes in the sink, you clean up after yourself, you pick up your clothes, you clean your toys up. When you're done using something, you put it away. And I think that's a good foundation for when he gets older to build upon.
Well, yeah, there's responsibility set in at a young age. We can have fun, but there's also work to do as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So through your childhood, I know you played at West Virginia.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was an All-American in high school. My senior year, I had about 64 Division I scholarship offers, and I chose to go play for the Mountaineers. I was a starting guard for West Virginia, and I loved it. And let me tell you, looking back now throughout my entire life, probably one of the hardest things I've done.
Is playing college ball for West Virginia?
Yeah, and again, you got to remember, Mark, times have changed a lot. And this is over 30 years ago. You'd get the crap kicked out of you on the field. And you'd be struggling to get up, and the coach is like, lay there and bleed. We're moving the drill down 10 yards. Right. No mercy, no patty cake stuff. And I think it's just a generational thing. I really do. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I know we talked about your injury, which ended your college career, but then you went into law enforcement after that.
I did. Yeah. I did. I loved being a cop. I thought it was the greatest, most awesome job in the world. It was an honorable, still is an honorable profession. Right. And, Mark, I was always the guy who, growing up and in school, you had bullies everywhere. But I always liked to stand up for the kids who got bullied. Mm-hmm. And I think that really transitioned over into law enforcement too, is to stand up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves. And I loved the job. But at around 35 years old, it was a small department, but I was deputy chief of police. I'd done just about everything you could do in law enforcement. And I found myself behind a desk, approving reports, doing the schedule, rereading search warrants before they got put in, things of that nature. And I thought to myself, have I peaked? Is this it? Like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Now, Mark, I'm not an office guy. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, I need to be out doing different things, interacting with people, making on the fly decisions. And it got to a point to be something that I love doing, to get to a point to where I was a paper pusher.
Right.
So, at 35, I enlisted active duty Army infantry, and something I always wanted to do, and I went and did it.
Huh. It's interesting. Until you said something about the bullies, I know we had talked earlier, and I said, I never had even considered law enforcement as a career, but I always stood up for the weak. I always fought for the bullies, even within my own family. I was a protector of my brothers who would get picked on and things like that. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that my calling was law enforcement, but it was probably the thing that I was always called to be, a protector of people. Until you said that, you're standing up against the bullies, kind of led you into law enforcement even before you even realized it. That's kind of when I made the connection. I never thought I was going to be a cop, but I always stood up for the weak. I always stood up for those that couldn't protect themselves, even within my own family. And I was always meant to be a cop without even knowing I was supposed to be a cop.
Well, Mark, I could tell you this too. I learned more in my first 2 years on the job as a cop than I could have ever learned sitting in a classroom and finishing college. I learned so much more. I learned about society. I learned psychology. I learned about people. Learned a lot that a lot of kids who sit in the classroom miss out on. And they just don't have the same experiences the cops have.
No, I agree. It's interesting. I think one of the things that patrol does is teaches you about people, and it teaches you how to effectively communicate. The whole verbal judo concept is valid. It is something that we learn through the course of our career, and we learn how to read people. Something that I didn't really have the experience. It took that experience of law enforcement to be able to go, yep, that looks like a duck.
The big thing it did for me too, Mark, was conflict resolution. Okay, is conflict resolution and problem solving, and being able to think on your feet, think on the fly, and solve problems. And again, you're dealing with different ethnic backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different upbringings, different races, different religions, and trying to dance around in all those squares to solve a problem on the spot, on the fly, and make the right decision at the same time.
Yeah. So looking back now, in everything that you've done prior to the military, the Army, when you enlisted, do you think that your life was preparing you for your experience in Afghanistan, even before you realized it? Everything was for a purpose.
I don't know, Mark, and we could probably touch on this in a little bit. I know that, God put me here for a reason. I don't know what it is. I know God saved me that day. I don't know for what purpose. But I think that experience, was the definition of my life after what happened in Afghanistan. And, just kind of really, once again, start looking at things through a different lens. Because, in police work, you try to find facts. You try to find, a conclusive answer to a problem. And with what happened in Afghanistan, I've learned to just really put my faith and trust into a higher being, put my faith and trust into God, and start looking at things in life a lot more objectively than I did before.
So before Afghanistan, the Teddy before Afghanistan is certainly different from the Teddy after Afghanistan. If you were to describe yourself like my life before, who was Teddy? Who did you believe Teddy Daniels was before deploying?
I think Teddy was a very shy person. I think Teddy was always afraid of making mistakes. Teddy always wanted to get everything right the first time. And, I was very risk adverse. I would calculate everything over and over and over and over again instead of just trusting my gut and going for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I know you shared the video with me, and we're actually going to be sharing clips of that on our episode here for the public. But
Yes, sir.
we want to be able to experience or have our listeners kind of experience through your eyes this incident. Can you walk us through the day that changed everything for you?
Boy, yeah, we actually went the day before, and we went and stayed at an Afghan army outpost. And Mark, the place was a total shithole. Okay? It was a little mound surrounded by HESCO barriers and filled with trash and the Afghan National Army. And we spent the night there on that outpost, and the next morning, we decided, well, not we decided, we had a lieutenant. Now, this was at the base of the Bedell Valley, which apparently nobody had been back in that valley for years. A lot of mistakes were made that day. We woke up that morning on the outpost, and the lieutenant called 2 NCOs over and said, "We're going to push back into that village. You got 5 minutes to give me a plan." And that's what it was. It was a 5-minute plan. We passed a grid line on a map that day. We passed a grid line where you were supposed to have mandatory air support on station. We were at a point in the war to where, we were there to support the Afghan forces. We were not supposed to be going out on solo missions. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have a forward observer with us, no air support, no Afghan forces. It was just a total cluster F, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
So we go up the ridge line, and it was hot that day. I'll never forget that day. It was so freaking hot. And we go up that ridge line, and we take the top of the ridge line over, and we're sitting and we're doing Overwatch on the village.
Have you, I'm going to just jump in for a sec. Have you had any contact on that specific day with any insurgents? Is it any of the Taliban?
Up until that point, no.
So it's just,
No.
Hey, we're just going to go up there, everything was hunky-dory.
Yeah. And we were going to do some Overwatch on the village, and, they were hell-bent on pushing back into this village. So instead of proceeding to a route to where we at least had a little bit of cover, the platoon leader that day said, "We're going to head down over the face and go get into the village." So he went first. I was about 30 meters behind him and to the right. And that's when all hell opened up on us. The village just erupted in gunfire on us. The guys up top, they took cover the best that they could. There was no return fire. It turns out the saw gunner on the patrol never put CLP on his weapon, so he was only able to fire that, one round at a time.
Sure.
But we got pinned down pretty good. And the lieutenant was on the ground. He had dropped his rifle. and I saw the bullets hitting the rocks around them. I was able to find some sort of cover. And, Mark, it's shoot, move, communicate.
Right.
Okay? Return fire, move, communicate that you're moving. And basic infantry tactics is, and I'm sure you've heard of this, is called the hot minute. All right? Mm-hmm. The second you take contact, you unload everything you got to gain firepower superiority. That allows you to maneuver. That allows you to take the tactical advantage. None of that happened that day.
Right. So suppressive fire, the hot minute.
Did not happen.
Yeah, and so I spent time in the Marine Corps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it was a first lieutenant or second lieutenant?
First lieutenant.
Okay, so he had a little experience. Those butter bars that come in, they think that they know everything. It's the NCOs that really have to train the leaders. And it doesn't even, the NCOs train the officers at every rank, unfortunately.
Yes, and again, I'm not talking ill of anybody. I understand that in combat, in the heat of the moment, no plan survives first contact intact. Right. I understand that, and that happened in a lot of the gunfights we were in. We'd have a plan, it would go to shit, and you have to regroup and figure it out on the move. So, that's what we ended up doing. But, Mark, that day, I decided, okay, I'm shooting, I'm moving, I'm communicating, and I realized that the rest of the squad, there was 8 of us, they were pinned down. So I decided to come out in the open, like, hey guys, here I am. And, try to direct the enemy fire towards me, thinking that suppressive fire would be laid down and, movement would happen and things of that nature. But again, Murphy's laws of combat, things don't always work out the way you plan.
So yeah, Murphy's Law is where we stopped. But
yes, sir.
So you're out there, you are drawing fire, enemy fire, so your troops can lay down some suppressive fire. When did you first realize that you were hit?
Oh boy, I think with all the adrenaline that was going on, and Mark, let me tell you, you talk about an adrenaline dump. That was an adrenaline dump. And initially when I came down the hill, excuse me, I ended up breaking my foot in several spots. And I felt it initially, but my mind wasn't so much focused on the pain. And then trying to find cover, I came down a little too far when I came to the right, and I saw a patch there where it's like, okay, I can get up behind these rocks and maybe find cover there. And as I'm going up that rock pile, I caught one in the back of my leg. And I figured, okay, that plan's not going to work. Switch gears, find another plan. So I knew as long as I stayed moving, I was a harder target to hit.
Right.
So again, it took us 45 minutes to an hour to climb that ridgeline. Mm-hmm. I'm carrying gear. Everybody's carrying gear. Hot day in a mountain. Like, Mark, we are freaking spent. I was almost spent before the gunfight kicked off. And I tell people all the time, it's amazing what your body can do when your mind says you have no other choice but to do it. So I started moving towards the other rock pile where I ended up. I caught one in the shin. And then I got behind that other rock pile, and a round had hit the front of my 203 grenade launcher and shot the rifle right out of my hands. So I had to reach out, get that rifle, get it back, make sure it was still operational, Grenade launcher was gone, had a big bullet hole in the bottom of it, blew the grip off, and started stacking rocks. And that's when I had my talk with God.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's actually where I was kind of going next. And you're absolutely right. Your mind takes over. I have not been in a situation like you have, and very few people have, but the mind takes over at some point. And, let's just go into survival mode here. But you had your talk with God. Was there a moment that you believed this is it? Like, I'm not going to make it home.
They had a PKM, a Soviet belt-fed machine gun, for those that don't know, dialed in on my location. And they were just unloading. And I was catching fragments from ricochets, rock fragments, everything else. And I thought, this is it. This is it. Like, I'm done. And I had a vision. I have a boy who's now 16. He was about 2 years old at that time. And I had a vision of two guys in their dress blues coming to my house to give him a folded flag and tell him that his father was killed behind a rock in Afghanistan. And that's when the mindset changed. It's amazing the stuff that goes through your head when you think this is it. And I think God gave me something there to fight for. And I said, okay, God, I get it. Today's the day. I'm coming home to see you. Mm-hmm. But I don't want my kid to know I died behind a rock. So whatever you do, you got to let me go out the way that I need to go out. And I stood up in the gunfire, reloaded, and started working my way down the mountain. And Mark, I'm hitting targets in the village as I remember two guys coming around the side of the building. One had an AK, the other had an RPG, and I can remember clear as day, slow motion, just firing 8 rounds, and they both dropped. And my sunglasses got shot off my face, and I had a round skip off the side of my helmet. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, let me just, if today's my day, let me catch one in the face, let me catch one in the neck. Because if they take my legs out even more than they have, all I've got left is my K-bar. And if we're going to have it out that way, then we'll have it out that way. But I will fight till I have breath left in my lungs. And the funny thing is, Mark, I had never been at more peace in my life than I was after I had accepted death, said, okay, this is going to happen. I have to make peace with this right now. And working my way down that mountain after I made peace, the most calmest I think I've ever been in my life.
That's interesting. And I know time, did time slow down as well? So, because you become hyper-focused on things.
Oh, you do. You do. It was all slow motion for me, but just at peace. Like, all fear was gone, and just, I made my peace with God. I thought 100% certainty I was going to die, and I had to make peace with that, and just live the last seconds of my life the way that I wanted to live the last seconds of my life.
Yeah, going out like a warrior. Absolutely. So looking back today, on that day, what part of the day stands out the most? Is that the peace that you went through, or you continue to go through the village? If there's one moment that stood out in that day, what was it?
I think it's after, so I got to the bottom, I put my back up against the wall, and I looked up the hill where I just came down. I thought, okay, I'm still in this fight. Like, I didn't die, I'm still here. And I fought my way back. There was a little dirt road, and they brought a couple trucks down this dirt road. Made it to the back of a truck, They took me to the Afghan outpost. We regrouped, and then we got back to our outpost. So I'm laying on a cot in the medical hooch in our outpost. I got 6 medics working on me, and I'm laying on the table. I got IVs in me. They're pulling stuff out of me, and the door opens, and this big bearded man walks in. And we actually had an ODA team attached to us on the outpost. For those that don't know, it's Operational Detachment Alpha. It's a Special Forces Green Beret unit. And he was the medic for the Special Forces unit.
Could have no better.
Oh, let me tell you, brother. He walked in. He's like, I'm in charge. And just a sigh of relief. Okay? Sigh of relief just came over me. Not that our medics were bad. Like, these guys were superb. They were phenomenal. But it's almost like God sent this guy to that hooch. And it's after, excuse me, it's after everybody left and I got patched up. And I asked the medic, can you just get everybody out and just give me a couple minutes? That's when it hit me, brother. That's what I remember most about that day, is sitting there realizing the severity of the situation that I was just in, and that I nearly just lost my life. And that's what I remember about that day. And, you know, I knew at that point that I'm going to start living my life a little different now.
Yeah, a very eye-opening experience, and the adrenaline dump had to have been,
it was bad.
Second to none, actually.
Yeah.
You know, that's a very emotional moment for a lot of people, where, you know, here you are, you know, and a lot of people reference your size, a mountain of a man, but it brings even people of your stature to tears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the thing, Mark. Like, if anybody says that, you know, oh, I wouldn't have been scared, or I was in combat and I wasn't scared, or I was in a gunfight and I wasn't scared, you're dealing with a psychopath.
Absolutely.
You're dealing with a psychopath. Any sane, normal person, they're going to have those emotions and those feelings after the fact. Now, you can block that out in the meantime to do the job that you have to do, but you're hyper-focused at that point. But afterwards, when your mind starts to kick back into gear and you start to realize, you know, the situation that you were in, you know, yeah, that takes over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in that situation, while you were in the fight, there's a time where a lot of people would panic. You are shot 4 times, and you are making your way down that hill. What separates the panic from the discipline in pushing forward?
Well, Mark, I can tell you this. I knew if I didn't fight, I was going to die. And even after I had accepted death, I knew that I had to keep fighting. And physically exhausted, wounded. Like I said, it's amazing what your body can do when your mind says you have to do this. And you always got to fight on and fight through. And the second you quit, the second you give up is the second that you're going to end up meeting your maker.
Absolutely. When you were going down that mountain, going down the hill, were you having a conversation with yourself? You're like, you know, like talking yourself through it mentally?
The conversation I was having with myself was a lot of things that I probably can't say on this show.
Our audience they understand this type of podcast. This show is about situations every situation is different, but profanity, that type of mindset, sometimes you just have to say fuck.
Well, yeah, brother, let me tell you, I think that was just about every other word coming out of my mouth,
Right.
coming down that hill. And it was saying it both in fear, relief, and in anger at the same time. Um, but like I said, I felt at peace. And, when I saw the two guys in the village that were taking shots, and, I'm saying out loud, I'm going to smoke these MFers. And, the thing about combat is you never feel bad about killing until later on down the road. And I'm saying much later. Even right afterwards, you felt good about it because it was a you or them situation. But it wasn't until way after all that I had to come to grips with some of the things that I did downrange.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sure. There's got to be a lot of counseling and therapy sessions. We're about to get into that, the recovery and the purpose and the identity of everything. But before we do, a lot of people would say that you are very courageous. Do you think courage is something that you're born with or something that you choose to be?
I don't even think those words fit what I did that day on that hill, Mark. They really don't.
Well, you drew fire so your troops would be safe.
But I honestly feel, too, I was in a position in that stack to do that. And, I believe that if anybody else on that squad was in that position that day, that they would have done the same thing. Sure. I mean, all I did that day, Mark, was my job.
Well,
that's it.
But that's true, and that's what we all train for. However, some people don't have the courage to take that step forward, which is I'm glad that you did. So, because there's a lot of fear involved. So how do warriors control fear instead of letting that fear control them? There's some people that would have stopped. I mean, it's just you've seen it and you've heard stories about it, where some people won't willingly put themselves in that way. Not that anybody in your unit would hesitate, but you hear of other people that fear overtook them. They weren't able to control it, so they weren't able to get into the mix. So how do we control that fear?
Well, I think too, and this, Mark, your body and your mind has three reactions to stress: fight, flight, or freeze. Mm-hmm. And, I think I really fell back on the athletic days when I played at West Virginia, and I was a redshirt freshman, taking the field against All-American Ray Lewis and the Miami Hurricanes. And it was like, okay, so I can shrivel up like a little kid and not step up to the challenge, or I could go out there and let Ray Lewis know he just got his ass handed to him by a small-town Pennsylvania kid,
Not today.
So, yeah, and I think it was that mindset of just, yeah, I'm going to kick your ass today. And that's the way it's going to be. And that's how it was for me. Like I said, playing football, that was my thing. And, nicest guy off the field. But my mindset when I played was, how dare they come here and step onto my field? This is my field. And do these guys think they're good enough to line up against me? Like, that's an insult. And then, when I was the young lineman lining up against guys like Ray Lewis, I think it's the power of positive thinking, that you still have to tell yourself in your head over and over and over, yeah, I'm going to give this guy hell. I've got nothing to lose.
That's right.
Nothing to lose at all. He's on the cover of every football magazine in the country. Nobody knows who I am, but I'm going to let him know I showed up to play.
Nice. Good for you. So, you talked about the aftermath. Was it harder coming home or mentally? The firefight happens, you get the dump. Now you come home. There's a transition in there somewhere. Let's talk about that struggle, because it is a struggle for a lot of these people to leave Afghanistan in Afghanistan. Now you're coming home,
Yeah.
and you're experiencing things, and your situational awareness in America, home, in the safety or the bubble that you think is safe, is much different than it is in Afghanistan. So how was that transition coming home and then your everyday life?
It was hard. I actually, believe it or not, when I first got out, I founded a company, and I took the company public in 8 months. So I stayed very busy. I did not have any downtime. And when I sold that company and moved back to Pennsylvania, or sold my interest in that company and moved back to Pennsylvania, and I'm like, sweet, I'm retired, nothing going on. That's when it started to hit. I actually my dad rode motorcycles with a bunch of Vietnam veterans. And we went on a ride one day, and we stopped at a little breakfast place, and I went outside to have a smoke, and the Vietnam vets, two of them came out, and they're like, hey, Teddy, so how you doing? And I'm like, I'm good, man. They were like, no, how you really doing? And, again, I told them, I'm good. And they were like, hey, we got group counseling over at the VA, man. Why don't you come over with us? And, I'm like, no, man, I'm good. I don't need any counseling. Meanwhile, I'm patrolling my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, sleeping on the couch, won't go upstairs to go to bed.
Sure.
And, I had a hair trigger, and, the doc at the VA told me the same thing. He goes, your time in combat in Afghanistan with the gunfights and the mortar attacks and the rocket attacks, it rewired your brain. And, anytime that you felt a threat, you had to use superior firepower to overcome that threat. And that was your mindset, and that's what kept you alive. And just learning how to change my cognitive thinking process to where not everything that I run into is going to be a threat, and I don't have to instantly elevate. Yeah, just that not everything's a threat, and that I don't have to instantly, take it one step above, to immediately eliminate any threat that I saw. So we got that handled, brother.
Yeah, good. It's interesting that, a lot of people don't think about this unless they've been in a situation like you, or they've talked to other people, other veterans like this, is, you're classified as a hero. People see you as this and that, but you struggle to ask for help. And that's why those old vets, the Vietnam vets, good on them for asking you, like, no, how are you really doing? Because, we put on this facade that, hey, I'm fine. But then 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm patrolling my house. So are you ever really fine? And that journey, I don't think, ever really stops, because even through you talking about it, your experience is therapy for other vets as well. So it's counter, it's a dual purpose on that therapy. So those scars, not physical scars, but those emotional scars, mental scars, they probably never disappear. There's nothing you can put on them to make them disappear, but you can certainly take away the the pain of the scar.
You know what it is, Mark? It's learning how to live with it at this point and realizing that, yeah, I wouldn't call it an everyday struggle or an everyday fight. Like, I've made peace with so much over the last 14 years that, I think I'm good. And, but here's the thing. There was a point in my life to where I was like, man, like, I'm glad I actually talked to somebody. And I want people to know that there is zero shame, because, and again, too, Mark, for me to reach out and say, to talk to a doctor at the VA after these guys got me there and was like, hey, man, I need help. Okay. Like, my body's falling apart on me. I'm not sleeping. I'm patrolling the house. Like, help me. And you got to remember, like, I come from a background, a very old school background, with my dad, with the careers that I was in, with, everything else, that I was afraid that I was going to be judged or looked upon as weak because I went and saw help. And I think there's a lot of police departments across the country that still have that old school mindset. I know that there's military units out there that still have it. And man, if somebody needs to go talk to somebody to get help, let them go talk to somebody to get help.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely imperative. There's a reason that they say 22 veterans a day. There's a reason that number is significant, right? But it's absolutely important, even in law enforcement, to talk to someone.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you on that. What role did your family play in your recovery?
It was just my father. Like I said, my mother had been gone for some time.
Right, but now you're, how long after Afghanistan, you've got children now, you're married?
Remarried, yes. I'm remarried. My youngest is 8, and
Is that your only child?
no, I have 3 other older boys. And my youngest's biological mom, she passed about a little over 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So it was me and him for a while, and just me and my little guy. That was it. And I got remarried about a year and a half ago, and to an amazing woman, and she took on something, like, yeah, I'm a package deal. I got this little guy in tow, and he actually fell in love with her first, and so it's things have worked out great. We've got our mixed family going on here, nice. And things are amazing.
Yeah. So when you get back, you had to find purpose, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How has purpose helped you move forward?
Finding something positive to do. Like I said, I started the one company that I took public, sold my interest in that. I then started a second company that got acquired back in 2019. And, then I got into the political realm. And now I'm back into the business world. And, I think what happens is a lot of guys, and I want to back up. I want to say this. Before I went in the military, I'd seen just about everything you could see as a cop, as far as death, what people are capable of doing to other people, the nasty car accidents, everything. And I was good. I did not believe in PTSD. Did not believe in it at all. Until I actually, like, when the stuff was happening to me, I didn't even know what it was. And the doctor's like, you've got post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm like, no, I don't. And he was like, yes, you do. And I said, okay, well, how do I beat this? He's like, it's not something you beat. I'm like, no, how do I beat this? Tell me what I got to do to beat this. He goes, I can help you live with it, but it's not something you're going to beat. So, my mindset was, how do I beat this? And I think what happens is a lot of guys get back, they're wounded or, they're having issues from PTSD. They get their VA disability and they adjust their lives and they're like, they want to be victims of what happened to them. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm going to go out. I'm going to do productive things. I'm going to stay busy. I started 2 companies. One I took public. The other one got acquired. Jumped into politics. And like I said, my big thing is be a risk taker. Do the things that, you wouldn't have done before. Okay. Ask the pretty girl out on a date. Start the business. Go do this. Go take the adventure. Do this. Do that. But keep yourself busy with challenges.
Right.
Because if it comes easy, I don't want anything to do with it. I really don't. If it's something that everybody and anybody can do, good. Let other people go do it. Give me something that's going to challenge me physically and mentally to accomplish. And Mark, I have no business background whatsoever, but here I am. I started a company with $5,000, and 9 months later, we're trading at a $44 million market cap. So, I just you learn as you go, and it was a challenge, and I enjoyed pushing through every day on that challenge. And I think for the guys out there that are dealing with similar things, man, go find something challenging to do that's going to keep your mind busy and your hands busy.
All right. Well, I'll be calling you for some business advice because I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. But, I think it's important when we talk about these veterans and you say, you've got to have these victories, these minor little victories, these routines that kind of take you out of where you're at. And it doesn't have to be a $44 million company. It has to be something that, a small victory. That small victory goes into a medium size and then very large. And, those risks absolutely matter. But your purpose might be that small victory today.
Yes.
Tomorrow it might be a little bit bigger. And after a while, like you said, it's going to be something that's much larger than you probably anticipated. I think a lot of veterans need help with things like that. And there are plenty of organizations out there that are willing to help them. But the first thing you got to do is ask. Right?
Well, Mark, you're right. And I think the big thing, too, is you guys are going to think this is stupid. Like my wife, she's incredible. She's a stay-at-home mom. Okay. She handles everything. But there's days I actually want to do laundry. And I will do the laundry. I will pull it out. I will fold it just to have that sense of accomplishment for that small amount of time. And I'll stand there and look at it like Superman. Like, look what I just did.
You're so funny. Yeah.
But it feels good. And it's like, there's a small thing that I just did today that I didn't have to do.
Right.
Like my wife handles all that, but I did it and I feel good about it. And it's like you said, those small little victories that just, even if it just puts a grin on your face, right. So you can brag to your wife, be like, baby, I did the laundry.
Yeah. I actually, therapy for me is folding the laundry and doing the dishes. Just like,
see, I don't know.
I know you do dishes, but I don't do the dishes. My wife does the same thing in the same boat that you are, but I just find I can kind of get lost in it, and your mind, you're doing a task, but those small victories. I had a guy on before. His name Bedros Keuilian. He talks about those small victories. Get up in the morning, get up and make your bed. That's your first victory of the day. Get up and do 50 push-ups. If you can't do 50, start with 5. Tomorrow do 10. And those minor little victories will soon progress into something else. But it's starting that discipline of accomplishments, getting that. He has a list thing. He says a GSD, get shit done list. We're going to do these minor things and get that stuff off our plate and moving forward. So when people,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I know people have called you a hero.
No, far from it.
Well, I know you. Every hero says that they're not a hero, but how does it make you feel when people say that?
I let them know that the heroes are the guys that didn't come home. I was in a combat arms unit. I did my job that day, just like thousands of other men went and did that day. And Mark, the real heroes are the guys that didn't come home.
I agree.
Those are the guys that, they came home in flag-covered caskets. And, those are the guys that are the true heroes. And I'm not one of them.
I agree. We absolutely. I mean, I came from a military family. I did military myself, law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
We love our veterans, our brothers and sisters. They all do a great job. Most people think that pressure only exists on the battlefield, but it transitions into every stage of your life. Do you think that your combat experience helped you prepare for your public life?
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Like, Mark, here's the thing. I have been, especially when I got into politics, okay, I have been criticized for everything. And it's like, you know what? I don't care. Like, say what you want to say. Critique me the way you want to critique me. Even recently, with this rapist up in Maine, Graham Plattner. Mm-hmm. Okay? And he came out and, he commented on my, stupid MFer who didn't deserve to live. Well, Graham, I don't remember you being there that day. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And it's like, exactly. It's that simple. And it's like, the difference is some guys run towards gunfire and others run towards keyboards. And I've never been a guy to engage on social media shit talking. Okay?
Sure.
Never been that guy. I'm like, whatever. Say what you want to say. I don't care. You don't put a roof over my head. You don't put food on my table. You don't put clothes on my family's back. And apparently, you know who I am, but I don't know who you are commenting on my page. So,
keyboard warriors.
Exactly. There's haters everywhere, Mark. And, I'm kind of thankful because it's kind of kept me relevant publicly, I guess.
Sure.
If they ain't talking about you, you ain't pushing hard enough. So, it's, but I think it's definitely shaped my attitude now because, like, I'm sure you've seen the original Blues Brothers movie.
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. One of my favorites of all time. But it's like, we're on a mission from God. And it's like, you know what? God's got something in this life, somebody's life I'm going to impact, something I'm going to do. God pulled me off of that mountain for a reason. I don't know what it is, may never know what it is. It might be my son, grows up to cure cancer. Who knows? Okay? But he pulled me off that mountain for a reason. And I truly believe that I am here to have an impact in a big way or a small way in somebody's life. So, when the hate starts flowing, I'll be honest with you, I kind of enjoy it. Like, I eat it up. Pre-combat Teddy, would have had a meltdown and been online typing and everything else. But now I'm like, whatever. Like, you ain't been where I've been.
Yeah.
Okay, you haven't survived what I survived.
And most people haven't.
Yeah. No. So say what you want to say, but just know in order for me to be offended, first I have to respect you and your opinion, which 90% of the time I don't. And it's just, I live my life a lot freer now. Freer from, I don't care what people think about me. And I think once you get to that level, to where you no longer care what people think about you, it's a different level of freedom. It really is.
Absolutely. It's like you're reading my notes, but those comments that this knucklehead and Grant Plattner was saying about you, it might turn some people bitter, right? Like, oh, like you, I don't sense any bitterness even towards Grant for that. So did his experience or his comments, they change anything for you? Teach you more about resilience? Did it have any effect on your purpose? Probably not.
No, it didn't. And as those comments were made, I heard that he also went out and criticized Chris Kyle as well. And it's like, okay, so I kind of see what's happening here. Here's a man who was not happy with himself, with his own service, with whatever he did or did not do, while he was in the service. And for some reason, he feels jaded by somebody. So he needs to lash out at me, lash out at Chris Kyle, who, unfortunately is no longer here to be able to defend himself, and go after people like that.
Right.
And it's like, are you that miserable of a person that you have to put or try to put others down to justify your own pathetic existence?
Right.
And that's kind of the way that I looked at it. Like, I actually kind of, I felt sorry for the guy. Believe it or not, it's that whole empathy thing that I gained in law enforcement. I'm like, okay, let's peel the onion back here. Here's a guy who's not very accomplished. Here's a guy who apparently didn't do the things in life that he set out to do, and he's mad at the world, and he's going to lash out at people. Okay, cool. You can be that way. I'm not going to be that way.
Right.
God bless him. I hope he gets the help that he needs. I really do.
If someone wanted to use my name in the same breath of Chris Kyle, I think I would be honored. Everybody knows.
Brother, I'll take it. I'll take it, and
yeah,
I tell people all the time too, judge me by my enemies,
Yeah, I've got a few enemies myself, and they'll post and talk about how they've been wronged. When I was the CCW coordinator for my department, of how they were wronged, but it was really their own responsibility and whatever. I don't give them any airtime, but I live rent free in their heads.
Ain't it a great feeling though? Like, it really is. It's got to be a great feeling because brother, I've got pages dedicated to me. Okay. Sure. And they're criminals. Like, they are seriously, like, no bullshit, convicted criminals. And it's like, okay, if these scumbags don't like me, I must be doing something good.
Right.
And so I'm sure they'll end up in the comment section here too, because they wake up in the morning, they think about me all day, and I'm the last thing on their mind when they go to bed. And then they dream about me. Yeah. So, you got to love haters. And I'm appreciative because, if you don't have haters, Mark, you're doing something wrong.
Oh, I agree.
You really are.
I agree.
And the fact that like you, it doesn't bother you, I kind of like it. I'm like, wow. Haters are your biggest fans, actually, if you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity. So I don't know that that's necessarily true, but it's a saying nonetheless. Hey, what advice would you give any veterans entering public service today? So we've got the transition from, and military has changed dramatically.
Yes, it has.
From the days of old, where there's a transition now that you have to go through to prepare you for public service or public life, not even public service, but for those veterans that have experienced certainly not what you've experienced, but similar things, what would you say to them about entering public service?
So you mean entering public service or just entering back into the world? And
Well, let's go back into the world because we have way
Yeah.
more of those than we do entering public service.
I'd be like, listen, you've served honorably. Take what you've learned. Reach out, help your brothers and sisters that need the help. And, be a productive member of society because people are going to look at you as an example. They're going to look at you as a leader. And, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to things, the way you act, okay? Every single veteran out there, some people may judge just based upon you.
Right.
So, here's the thing. I'm all about going out in the world, open mind and a full heart, and just try to do good.
Sure.
Try to do good by people, try to do good by society, try to do good by others, and don't be afraid to step up into those leadership roles that you were trained for, that you experienced in the military, because you are a cut above. You are that true 1% of society who understands about going out and standing for something bigger than yourself.
Right.
And, that's something that we have that 99% of the population does not have. Use that and use that same warrior ethos out in the world. Don't take no shit from people, okay? But always rise above.
Yeah. No, I agree. Hey, we're going to wrap up with a lightning round of questions.
Okay. Yes, sir.
All right. What's the biggest fear that you've conquered?
Whoo! I think asking out the pretty girl. I think that's the biggest fear. My wife dropped dead gorgeous. Okay, not even a different league, but a completely different sport. So, I outkicked my coverage on that one. And again, it was, I was always the shy, introverted guy, and I'm like, nope. You want something? Go get it.
I agree. I outkicked my coverage as well with my wife.
Yes,
She's
sir.
amazing. What's the greatest leadership lesson that you've learned?
The three stages of leadership: the mission, the men, and me. You always put yourself last. Mission first, men second. And always rely on the man on the ground closest to the action. Okay, that's whose opinion.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's whose opinion you should value first. If you've got command coming down with one thing and you got a guy on the ground telling you something different, I'm going with the guy on the ground.
Yes. Hey, in your opinion, what's the most underrated warrior trait?
Humility.
That's a good one. What is one book that everybody should read? Are you a book reader?
I am a book reader. One of the funniest ones that I think I've read has been funny but yet entertaining. Stone's Rules by Roger Stone.
Okay.
It's funny because he even tells you how to dress as a man. But Roger Stone is this little he's a political figure and out of this world kind of. Oh, let me say this one too, and this one's helped me a lot in business. The Art of the Deal is another great one.
My good old friend Donald Trump.
Yes, sir. The Art of the Deal.
Yes. Well, that's good. What daily habit do you think makes you mentally stronger?
Brushing my teeth when I wake up in the morning. Like you said, it's the little things. It's the little victories, the habits, the routines. The thing I enjoy most about my day is obviously, I homeschool. My wife used to be a teacher, an elementary school teacher, so we homeschool my little boy. And it's just watching him grow and learn and getting to experience all that.
Nice. And final question, what do you hope people remember most about Teddy Williams?
You mean Teddy Daniels.
I'm
Teddy
sorry,
Williams was a home run guy. So he is
I
remembered for that.
Daniels. Yeah, good call. I don't know why that popped into my head. Teddy Daniels.
Just that, boy, what are they? Just that I was a giving, decent person, and I was a guy that could be counted on. I was the guy that people could call at 3 a.m. and say, "Hey, Teddy, I have a problem. I need your help," and knowing that I'm the guy that's going to be there. That's what I want them to remember most. Is just, hey, Teddy was a really nice guy, and he'd give you the shirt off his back.
Nice. So every guest teaches us something, and we're so grateful to have you on today. But today, you reminded us that courage isn't just the absence of fear. Fear is absolutely one of those things that helps give you courage and get you to the end game. It's making the decision to keep moving forward when fear is screaming at you to quit. But you don't quit. So if somebody's listening today and they're fighting the hardest battle of their life, whether it's physical, emotional, financial, or spiritual, what would you tell them, Teddy?
Boy, you know what? You're not having a bad day. You're having a bad 15 minutes. Okay? You're having a bad morning. And, in the blink of an eye, God can change all that for you. Tomorrow is always a new day. Right. Push forward, drive on for one more day. Just give it one more day. Okay? And things will change for the better.
Absolutely. How can we support you? How can our viewers support you?
I'll tell you what, just go over to my social media. It's Teddy Daniels. I'm blue check marked on Facebook. It's Teddy Daniels 22 on Instagram. And I believe it's T Daniels 99 on X. Just come over, pop in, and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to encourage all of our people to start following you on your social media platforms. So thank you again for joining us today on another episode of The Warrior's Way. If today's conversation inspired you, challenged you, or reminded you that you're capable of more than you think, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this episode. We need to share it with people that need to hear it. There are people that need to hear this. So share this to your social media platforms. Our mission here is simple. It's to inspire ordinary people to develop extraordinary mindsets. Because the Warrior's Way isn't about the battles we seek. It's about the battles we respond to when life brings the battle to us. So Teddy, thank you again for being on the Warrior's Way. And for those watching, we look forward to seeing you next time.
Mark, I want to say this too. Thank you for doing what you do with your platform, with giving people a voice, and being a spot where people can come and connect and hear the messages, not just yours, but everybody else that you have on. I think this is an incredible thing, and I want to thank you for doing what you're doing for the entire community as well.
Well, thank you so much. All right, stay safe, stay on the Warrior's Way.